Baltimore Ravens versus the Cleveland Browns. Fantasy football wise, Lamar Jackson, first of all, is going to be back for the Dallas game, as reports say. As of the time of this recording, we got to record these early in the week. Game hasn't happened yet, so it is, okay? Assuming everybody's healthy and a lot of people are active once again for Baltimore, let's just assume that. Cleveland, we already saw what happened and what they did in the first half of the Tennessee Titans. I'm sorry, Cleveland Browns fans, but this is a legit problem. Their prevent defense is executed poorly. You don't just give up 28 points. And by the way, Tennessee, if that ball didn't bounce off of Adam Humphries' chest, that's a different game at the end of the game. And Tennessee still had a chance at an onside kick at the end of the game. It's embarrassing, and he did it against Dallas. The prevent defense, I understand what it's supposed to do. Bend, don't break. Well, they're breaking. They can't break. They need to do better. It's a valid storyline. However, we saw what happens, right? Both teams are going to want to run on each other. We saw what happened earlier in the season. I actually like this matchup for Baltimore. I do. So that said, Lamar Jackson, I do think is a start this week. I have sit grades on grades, and I'm talking about computer projections on both running backs, but I start J.K. Dobbins. The only reason I don't start Gus Edwards is because I don't know what the Mark Ingram factor is going to be. Wide receiver, gosh, I'm looking at it. I have a start grade on Marquise Brown. I don't feel good about that. I'm going to sit him anyway. If Mark Andrews is back, I like Mark Andrews. For Cleveland, you got to respect. Look, everybody's talking about whether or not Baker Mayfield's good enough. Guys, their defense is good enough. I was talking about the second half. When they let their foot off the gas, they're bad defense. But their defense, when they're pretty good defense. And
Myles Garrett's a pretty good player.
Yeah,
is what you meant to say.
No, man. I really like this defense.
Who else is good on that defense?
As a unit, they play well. I'm telling you, man, they play well. But this is your Baltimore hate coming out. Look, I know Baltimore is originally the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, no, I know you're really effectively rooting for the Cleveland Browns in purple. I get it. It's tough. It's tough to get over, David. I understand. But Cleveland's a good defense, except when they go to the prevent. They're awful. They're like the worst prevent defense I've ever seen in my life. They're basically like Tony Dungy in Bizarro World. This is like Tony Dungy is like a kind of effectively bend don't break defense. Cleveland's a break.
They're 22nd in points per game allowed, Sean.
Yeah, that's because they take leads and then they let everybody just score on them for the rest of the game.
They're running the ball out. These are quick games where there's less plays because they run the ball so much, and they're still allowing 22nd.
I'm telling you, man, they're a first half defense, and then they're egregious. If you can find a split of first half versus second half points, I'm sure it's in there somewhere, or at least I can find it for next week. I'm telling you, man, Cleveland's bad in the second half when they have a lead. They're bad. Anyway, you know what Cleveland wants to do. They want to run the ball. I'm starting Chubb. I remember last year in 2019, Chubb completely dominated, single-handedly beat this Baltimore team. I know Baltimore's run defense is good. To me, Chubb's matchup proof. I don't care. I'm starting Chubb. They need to give him more carries. Because I think Cleveland will be a little bit behind into this game, I think Kareem Hunt's more of a start this week, although I have an awful projection on him, honestly. And to me, tight ends are safer. I know Jarvis Landry got in the end zone. I know Mayfield went nuts in the first half. That's great. I like tight ends more in this matchup than I do wide receivers for the Cleveland Browns. What do you think, David?
Well, I'll tell you what. We played this team week 1. And you know what the final score was?
No.
It was 38-6 Baltimore Ravens over the Cleveland Browns. We completely annihilated them. That's one thing, because this does happen, and sometimes we do annihilate Cleveland, and then they play us well in the second matchup. As you mentioned before, what happened with Nick Chubb, where we beat them pretty well, but in the other matchup, Nick Chubb went completely crazy against us. Let's just look at what happened week 1 this year, though. Lamar Jackson, 20 of 25, 275 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. So it's definitely going to be a Lamar Jackson week. Obviously, you're starting him. It's more kind of DFS consideration. Marquise Brown had 5 for 101 week 1 against Cleveland. So he had very many good games this year, but he did have one against Cleveland, and their secondary has not been good this year. They've allowed a lot of points to wide receivers. You got some serious balls if you put Marquise Brown into your lineup.
I'm not doing it. No way.
In a redraft format, but DFS consideration in a tournament, you know,
sure.
He does have high upside, and I would assume his price is not going to be very high, depending what he does against Dallas. Maybe he goes crazy against Dallas tomorrow night, and his price skyrockets. Who knows? As well as in that game, Mark Andrews caught the other 2 passing touchdowns that Lamar Jackson threw, 5 for 58 and 2 receiving touchdowns from Mark Andrews. So it's another possible big game for him against Cleveland this week. And J.K. Dobbins, only 7 for 22 rushing, but he did have 2 touchdowns week 1 in his first game ever. And I'm going to go on record right now. tomorrow night against Dallas, this is going to be the game where J.K. Dobbins cements himself as a featured running back, and he never looks back. And if that doesn't happen, don't even bother tuning in next week because I'm going to be hiding out in the cave.
He'd be in the bunker. J.K. Dobbins is the best running back on this team.
And this is going to be made more apparent than ever against Dallas, and they will have no choice but to continue feeding this guy the ball. Maybe he gets another 2-touchdown game against Cleveland. He could be a league winner as well. Finally, the schedule's aligning. Finally, it looks like they're going to give him the touches. J.K. Dobbins, wheels up. Please give this guy the ball.
You know, I've said in recent weeks, I'm glad these two teams are playing each other. I say J.K. Dobbins reminds me of Nick Chubb's rookie season, and I saw Nick Chubb, and I'm like, dude, this guy is next level. And it was Hugh Jackson and Freddie Kitchens and all that stuff. And it took Hugh Jackson getting canned and Hyde getting traded, as you mentioned, a couple weeks ago, for Nick Chubb to find. It's like every time I watched the guy, he would take a screen pass on a stupid down and go 55 yards every time he touches the ball. I think that somebody said this week that he's averaging 6 yards a carry this season. Give him
in the fourth quarter. Chubb is averaging over 10 yards per carry in the fourth quarter.
Give him the ball. I don't understand why this is so complicated. I know Kareem Hunt's a good running back. Just give him the ball 30 times a game. I don't care what the score is. He's going to win you games, for crying out loud. But they're not going to do it, And Stefanski, I don't have any problem. My problem's more with Kitchens last year. But J.K. Dobbins is similar to me. It's like, guys, come on, Mark Ingram, you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Gus Edwards, I like Gus Edwards, but really? You give the ball to J.K. Dobbins. What's so complicated about this? He's your best running back. Just give him the ball. Anyway, we're going to see what's going to happen. I think it's going to be interesting. But the line here, Baltimore -2.5 according to Bovada on the road versus Cleveland. I'm guessing you're taking Baltimore.
That's a pretty good guess, Sean.
I think it's a field goal game. I do. But I think Baltimore wins. I think Baltimore wins this one. I like the way that Baltimore matches up against Cleveland, but I think it's a close game. Cleveland, look, they're 9-3. They're in the playoffs. Baltimore needs this. And they're a physical team, and I think they're a little chippy and a little ticked that they had to play that Pittsburgh game when half their roster was. I think they're going to come out, and I like the way Baltimore's season schedule, by the way, ends for them. I believe I believe that Baltimore's in the playoffs. Look at their schedule, everybody. I really do. But
they're going to win out.
But it requires exactly. They need to win out. What are they? 6-5 now. So we think that they'll be 7-5 after the Dallas game. I think they're going to win this Cleveland game, but if they don't, they're going to finish 10-6. If they do, they're going to finish 11-5. They win out after this Cleveland game. I think both of you and I agree with that. I think Baltimore wins this Cleveland game. So Baltimore's in, Cleveland's in. We'll probably get this. We'll probably get a Baltimore versus Cleveland 3. So, but I think it'll be close. It'll be fun. Let's move